Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's science show. So we're just going to be a little bit of a filler while other people kind of get their tasks done and use their flex time. So we're just going to start with a bit of some different cool science experiments, some of which you guys can do at home, some of which you guys will probably not be able to do at home, sadly, but I'll at least be able to show you here. So I hope you guys all had a good time during most of YSIC today. And thank you guys for your patience for all the technical difficulties that we had throughout the event, but I hope you guys still enjoyed yourselves. So the first thing that I'm actually going to do is going to be a bit of a magic trick. So I'm sure you guys have seen normal piece of paper, and I'm sure you guys know what it looks like if you burn a normal piece of paper. So I'm just gonna showcase that a little bit here. I just have a match. Gonna hold it in tongs just to be safe so I don't burn myself. And if we just burn a normal piece of paper, that's what it's gonna look like. So I'm gonna put that out here. And I have a special piece of paper here that's going to burn a little bit differently. So you see this here? This looks like a regular piece of paper, right? But let me show you what this is going to look like if I actually burn it. So I'm just going to cut off a small piece here since I don't want to burn too much of it. So I'm going to take out, that's getting stuck to me. I'm going to take out another match. It's ready. So you guys can see that here, right? So that burns a lot more quickly. So that's a special kind of paper. So that's called nitrocellulose paper. So it's basically made of a special, chemical that's going to be extremely flammable. And that's what makes it actually burn so much faster. So if you've seen like magician shows, sometimes they have that fancy paper that they'll be able to burn really quickly. That's called flash paper, and that's basically what this is made of. So that's what these magicians actually sometimes use to actually get the flash paper effect. So let's go on to a different experiment. So this one's also going to involve a little bit of fire. So what this is going to need is we're going to need a flask, a big flask, and an egg. So just in the chat, do you guys think I'll be able to get this egg into this bottle without breaking it? So as you guys can see, the egg is kind of just sitting on the bottle. It doesn't really fit all the way. I could probably force it into the bottle, but I want to get it in there without actually breaking it at all. So I'm going to angle that camera a bit down so you guys can see this. So I see some yeses in the chat. Some people seem to know this one. So this one's pretty fun. But what basically happens here is I'm going to use air pressure to actually get this egg into the flask. So normally you're going to have a lot of air molecules and air all around you, and that's going to exert a pressure on us. And that's called the atmospheric pressure. So what happens is usually air wants to move from areas of high pressure into low pressure. So what we want to do is we want to reduce the pressure inside the flask so that we can actually get the egg, get the air pressure from the atmosphere to push down into the bottle, trying to go from high pressure to low pressure, and that'll eventually force the egg into the bottle. So what we're going to need here are a few different things. We're going to need something flammable. So that is going to be newspaper. So that's going to be very flammable, and that'll help us reduce the amount of air molecules inside the flask because the fire is going to consume oxygen, which is going to be a air molecule, of course, and that normally would exert a pressure on the bottle. Exert a pressure inside the bottle, but if we remove that from the air, then we're going to be able to reduce it. So what you want to do is, firstly, you want to kind of wet the edge of the bottle so that it kind of gets a little bit wet. I'm going to put that there. I'm going to get my matches. And oh, this match is broken. I will get another one. So I'm going to start burning that. I'm going to push that down into the flask. And as it starts to burn, it should be able to suck the egg into the bottle. Though this is very slow right now because unfortunately my fire was not big enough. So I will take a moment and redo that. So I'm going to take a bit of newspaper again. There. I need a bit more newspaper. There we go. Just a little bit more. I need to catch this on fire very nicely. So I'm going to burn that. Quickly push that in. Oh, well, that does not want to work today. It's working so nicely last time. But let me try this again. Oh. There we go. And the egg goes into the flask. And you can see the egg is in there, perfectly intact, not broken at all. So that's how you get an egg into a flask. Though I do not recommend you do this at home because it does involve fire. If you do want to do it, please have your adult supervision with you and make sure they know what they're doing before they actually try this themselves. So the next one we're going to do is going to be a different experiment. So this one's not going to involve fire anymore. Sorry, guys. So this is going to also not be something you guys can try at home. But what you're going to need here is a big glass bowl. And yes, the egg is hard-boiled. I should have specified that. If it was a raw egg, it would crack, unfortunately. So what you're going to need here is something called acetone. So this is a chemical, and it's actually what you find in nail polish. And a styrofoam cup. I have a couple styrofoam cups here. And basically what happens in this case is if I pour the acetone into the styrofoam cup, you'll see the entire bottom just come out as the entire styrofoam cup just melts. So the reason for this is because the styrofoam is made of a polymer called, it's made of a polymer, so this basically can break down and get dissolved by the acetone. So the acetone is able to break it apart and basically dissolve the styrofoam cup. So if I just pour the acetone, for example, over the top of the cup, you'll see that it'll start to melt and break down, and it'll slowly sink into the puddle. So very cool, right? That's what science can do. And again, I do not recommend you guys try this one at home because it can be fairly dangerous if you don't know. But for example, I could also just press the cup down into the acetone and you could just see it slowly start to dissolve. Had I been doing this IRL, I would have liked to be able to let you guys come up and try and push the styrofoam cup in yourselves and such, but sadly, we are online and I cannot show you that here since that is not something I can do. There we go. And for the next part, so this next one is going to be something that I'm sure some of you have at least heard of before or probably seen yourself. So this is going to be Coke and Mentos. So normally I would do this outside, and I did have a recording of this so that you guys can see what would happen if we do it outside. But just as a bit of an explanation of what happens and a bit of a setup. So I will not do this in my living room, do not worry. But as you guys know, soda has a lot of carbonation. So it's got carbon dioxide in it. And if you pour it out, you're going to see a lot of bubbles. So for example here, if I just pour out a bit of Coca-Cola, you're going to see there's a lot of bubbles in it, right? So that's simple enough. And basically what will happen if you add something called a Mento in it. So I have some Mentos here. This is basically a candy, and it's got like a very rough, like fairly rough surface. It's got microscopic roughs on it, and this is going to allow carbon dioxide to start building up in it. So if I drop a single Mento in a cup of Coca-Cola, you see the fizziness start to occur. And you'll see a lot of bubbles getting made. So what we're going to do here with a Coca-Cola bottle and Mentos is we're going to make a rocket out of it. It's kind of similar to what we did with the egg in the bottle experiment, where you're going to use pressure. So because the gas is going to build up inside the Coke bottle when you drop a Mentos in it, it's going to basically force all the soda out, and that's going to allow it to shoot up into the air. So I'm going to do two different ones. So one is going to be the Coke fountain, and the other is going to be a Coke and Mentos rocket. So for the Coke fountain, this is what you're going to need to help you set it up. So you're going to want a tube of Mentos. And you're going to basically take a piece of paper. So you want to roll up the package of Mentos in the piece of paper. And this is just going to allow you to basically have a contraption to release the Mentos quickly and easily into the soda without kind of getting too close to it. So you basically just want to roll it all up. You want to tape it shut. So I have some tape here. Wherever it's gone, actually, I can't find my tape. There it is. So you want to tape it shut so that you have just a nice tube. Get the Mentos out, and basically you want to close off the bottom with another piece of paper. So you can just take maybe some scrap paper you have on the side, tape that over the end so that it basically covers the end of it so that you can fill it with Mentos. After that, you want to take a board and basically put your Mentos over the board so that you can drop it into the soda bottle and have your soda come out of it. So that's basically what is going to be, so that is basically how you're going to make a Coke and Mentos rocket. In the case of, well, a Coke and Mentos fountain, sorry. If you want to make a Coke and Mentos rocket, what you're going to need is a long strip of tape. So you take your tape, just lay it flat on the table, and then you're going to take some of your Mentos out. Usually you don't want too many in this case, since otherwise it can get fairly bad. So you want to take maybe 1 or 2 Mentos. Oh, well, the tape is stuck now. Sorry, I've lost that. I will take a new piece of tape. So you take some tape and you just put your Mentos on the tape, like so. So you just tape it over like that. You fold it over so that your Mentos are nicely packaged. And you're basically going to take your cola bottle, take off the lid, and you're going to tape this to the underside of the lid. So by taping it to the underside of the lid, you're going to be able to gently put this into the bottle of Coca-Cola without having it touch the top of the soda. So this way you can screw on the top of the cap and you can basically shake it up and launch your rocket. So since I wasn't sure about the weather conditions today and I don't exactly have Wi-Fi to show you guys outside what would happen if I do this, I did have a recording of a video of the Coke and Mentos experiment for you guys to see. So I'm just going to share that with you guys in one moment. Let me bring that up. And I'm sorry if the video quality is not the best or it's going to be kind of laggy across the platform, but I hope you guys will be able to see what's happening and hear what's happening as well.
Hi everyone, so now we're finally outside and we can actually do our Coke and Mentos experiment. So what you're going to need is a bottle of soda of some type, so I have Pepsi here. Okay. You need a board, and you're going to need...
I will not do this in my living room. I see somebody daring me to do this here, and no, I would die from my parents.
So you fill this up with Mentos, and what you're going to do is...
And yes, that's Pepsi, because Pepsi will work as well, but typically Diet Coke works the best.
You're going to want to put this over top and flip it over. And now you want
so that's
to
using the contraption that we made.
Is right over top of the lid of the opening of the bottle. And now we're going to quickly just pull this out and let the Mentos drop, okay? Ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
There you go. So,
and that's our Coke fountain. So if you add more Mentos in, then you can get a higher stream up. And if you want to have a smaller fountain, then you can just add less Mentos. So this is the carbon dioxide reaction that I mentioned earlier, where the Mentos is going to lead to the gas starting to form on the rough surface of the Mento and causing a bunch of carbon dioxide to be made that forces all the soda out of the bottle. So now we're going to move on to our next experiment, which is going to be the Coke and Mentos rocket. Okay, so now we're going to do our Coke and rocket experiment. So what you're going to take now is take a tape and Mentos contraption we made earlier, tape it to the top of your cap for the Coke bottle, and
you can definitely do it with a lot of Coke and a big jug of Coca-Cola as well. You probably won't be able to launch a 4-liter though.
Just yet. Make sure that the cap is on, but not too tightly so that it can come off. And now we're going to actually launch our rocket.
So I've had multiple attempts. So some of the attempts work, some of the attempts did not work very well. So these two are the attempts that actually had it shoot up into the air properly. Sorry if it's a little hard to see, but I also have some bloopers of it failing a couple times. We definitely have to try this many times to get it to work properly. Some of it still gave some pretty cool effects though. Like this last one that actually spun in a circle.
1, go.
So yeah, there we go. So that's the Coke and Mentos experiment, and I hope you guys had fun watching that. And I do see some people putting some questions. So you can't do an entire pack of Mentos in 4-liter jug. That probably won't shoot up into the air very well because that's going to be just very heavy and you're not going to have the actual propulsion to shoot that up into the air. But I hope you guys have fun watching that at least. I definitely had some fun filming that. So the last thing that we're going to do is why you guys have cornstarch. So this is something that you guys can actually make yourselves right now and right here. So what you're going to need is just a bowl. So I just have a glass bowl here. So if you guys need this chance to go grab the materials, you guys can get so now. So what you're going to need is a bowl, some cornstarch, which we have supplied you with your in your packages. You need a tablespoon, and you're going to need, if you want, you can get some food coloring as well to dye it a specific color, and also just water. So what we're going to make here is something called oobleck. So what oobleck is going to be a non-Newtonian fluid, and that basically means that it doesn't quite behave like a liquid or a gas or a solid. So what happens with non-Newtonian fluids, as you guys will see in a bit, is that when you play with it a certain way, it's going to act like a liquid. It'll fall through your hands like if you're trying to hold water. But in other cases, you can actually just roll it up into a ball like it was a solid. So that's the reason for this is because the cornstarch is going to be able to basically the cornstarch is mixing with the water, and the cornstarch doesn't really move around in that water very fast. It's not very viscous. So when you hit it very quickly, the cornstarch doesn't really get a chance to move out of the way, so it acts like it's a solid. But if you give it time to just rest in your hand, it'll eventually pool out into a liquid form, and that's because the cornstarch has a chance to actually move. So I'm going to show you how to make that here. So I just have a bowl here. I'm going to get that sectioning as best as I can. So what you're going to need is your cornstarch. I have a giant tub of it, and you guys are welcome to join me in making some of this yourself. So you're going to need cornstarch, and what I usually like to use is about 1 tablespoon, or more than 1 tablespoon actually. I do 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. So you're going to just put that in your bowl there. And you're going to need some water, and that's usually going to be 2 parts cornstarch to 1 part water. So if I have 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, then you're going to use 1 tablespoon of water. And if you want to dye it a specific color, this is where you would add your color. So I'm going to make it blue. So I would take some of the blue food coloring and just drop that into the water, and that'll be able to change the color of the oobleck to a specific color. So if I put that there, I add a drop of blue, and I just mix it up. And if it does seem like your oobleck is getting very clumpy, then you can add a bit more water, but try not to add a little too much. So you don't want to add too much water, otherwise it's going to get too runny and you're not actually going to make oobleck. And if you want to make it a bit harder, you can add more cornstarch, which we've supplied you guys with 3 tablespoons of it. So you guys can definitely use all of it if you want, but then you won't be able to make any more, or you won't be able to fix any mistakes that you potentially make. So I'm going to add a little bit more water to mine. And as you guys can see here, if I stir it up, it is making a gelatinous type of mixture. And if you continue to mix it, you'll be able to make some goo. Really hard to mix because it tends to not want to mix. So I'm going to add a bit more water just to make it a bit runnier. And there we go. So if I, for example, pick it up on a spoon, you can see that it acts fairly much like a liquid. It's going to run fairly easily. However, if I decide to pick it up with my hands, for example, and just kind of roll around with it. I can roll it into a ball fairly easily. I can do a lot of different things with it. So I'm trying to find if I have another container here that I can use as an example. Sadly, I do not. So I'm going to do this on a piece of paper. There we go. So I'm just going to do this on the board. So for example, if I pour this out into my hand, usually it's going to be like a liquid. But if I hit it with a spoon, for example, it'll be fairly hard. It'll act like it's hard. If you guys have made it yourself, it'll be really gelatinous, as some people have been saying. And that's basically what oobleck is. So you guys can just kind of spend some time playing around with it.